Hello, I'm Tanya, the host of The Comeback Seat, where every setback deserves a comeback. And today we have Nate, who is going to share his journey. Today he is in the comeback seat. Hello, Nate.
Hi.
Before we get started, I just wanted to tell you that most men do not have to face the journey that you've had to face, and I recognize that, and I just want to honor you by saying, how resilient you are and how you showed up for your family and you kept on going, and you're a survivor of the C word, and I am so proud of you. I don't know you very well, but you're a miracle, and I'm just honored to have you as a guest today.
Thank you.
So welcome, Nate. Tell us a little bit about you.
So I'm here I was born in Albany. I'm 39 years old now and married, got 2 kids, and I work with Tanya's sister, Shannon, for the last 10 years out in Salem. And we all work remote now, but I started out there. And so I work on computers, software engineering, enjoy my job a lot. And then I just enjoy being able to share my story about my cancer journey. So.
And take us back to the day. I know you were in the shower and you felt a lump, and take us back to that day where everything felt off.
So that was back day after my birthday in 2020. So I just turned 34. Yes, celebrated my birthday. Was getting ready for work, took a shower, normal day, and then I was like, something's not right. And I felt like a hard lump in my testicle on the left side. And then that concerned me mostly because I used to teach robotics, and one of my students named Jacob Garcia had testicular cancer a couple years before me, and he had posted just a couple of times about his journey. And I was like, well, I'm hoping this isn't cancer. And I need to, one, get a doctor. I didn't have a primary care physician at the time. So I pre-established with one, and I wanted to get it checked out because I knew it was a possibility. And then I had another friend named Alan, who was the general manager at Staples. I was working 2 jobs at the time, and he had gone through testicular cancer in his late teens. And so I knew of his journey, but that was a long time before that. And so I had a couple people to rely on, but at first I just stayed silent because it was the unknown. And my primary care, he ordered the test and the ultrasound, and he said, it's probably nothing. And obviously it wasn't. So later, yeah.
To say most, if they don't think it is, they don't go above and beyond. So he did actually write, hey, he needs to get an ultrasound and get this checked out. And
Right.
just to describe to listeners, because I'm a female, I don't know much about test. I'm not even going to pronounce what you have shared with me in emails, but you can tell the audience later about what the correct name is. But is testicle cancer the right word for to sum it down? So it's correct saying testicle cancer?
So people call it testicle cancer, testes cancer, or testicular cancer is the most common that goes around there. Most doctors are going to call it testes for whatever reason. So I get all those names thrown around when I'm on this, but so he ordered it as an ultrasound just because to be cautious to see if it was a cyst or there's also these things called hydrocele that can cause pain. I actually had all 3 of those things. And so,
and like women, you're supposed to feel like women for their breasts. You're supposed to feel for lumps. And this is what you did to prompt you to go to the doctors, correct?
Right. So there's a lot of material out there that shows you the proper technique, how to roll the testicle through your hand to feel for the lumps. Mine, I just felt like right away, and it was just a hard lump. And most of the time with a testicular cancer, it's going to be painless, but that's not every time. So it can be painful. It can be not, you can't even feel that it's pain, but it's going to feel different. So if you can feel one versus the other two, it's going to be noticeably different for you. Mine was hard, and the entire thing was actually cancerous once they did the scan. So, but going through with other guys that have gone through it and talking with them, you get it where it gets a huge size, and mine didn't really grow at all. Mine just stayed the same size and then just got hard. But some of them were shrink, some of them would go bigger. It just depends on the type of cancer that you get, because there's all kinds that happen in there, and it is possible to get it in both testicles as well. I didn't know that before this last year, but now I'm starting to find more and more people that are getting that. So it's it can come all shapes and sizes and everything. And so what we encourage is, as some of the foundations that I'm a part of, you just check for irregularities and follow your brain, because the worst case scenario, it's nothing, and best case scenario, it's nothing. Worst case scenario, you have to go through to some of the journey that you do.
And so the doctor sits down. How do they tell you you have the C word? That would be crushing. So did he sit down
Yeah.
with you and your wife, or how was it?
Actually, no. So this doctor, he had said that he didn't think it was, and everything. And so they did the ultrasound. They actually posted the results before he got a hold of me on my chart. And so I had read what was going on, but I didn't understand any of the terms. And then I was actually going in to go get my eyes checked for my yearly contact prescription, and I got this call from a cell phone down in Roseburg. Well, my doctor had been on vacation that week, and he had a Roseburg number, and he had called me from his personal cell phone because he saw the results post, and he didn't want me to see them without knowing what was going on. And he's like, "This is the specialist, the urologist I want you to see. He's going to get you in right away. Sorry for misdiagnosing you." It was really cool to have that personal connection, because he didn't need to call me from his cell phone. He could have had an assistant. He could have had a nurse. He could have had somebody else follow up with me, but he was on vacation, and he decided it was important enough to pick up the phone and call me and get me started on my treatment plan. And so that's where that went.
So you get the personal call from a cell phone, and that is awesome for a doctor to do that as well. And then you go home to your family and you tell your family or your wife, I'm assuming your wife. And then what happens at that point?
So I got the news of that I was I needed to go in and see the specialist. And so they can't tell for sure until they take the testicle out that it's cancer. And so what the urologist got me in, I took my mom with me because my wife didn't have very much PTO to use to go to appointments or anything like that. So I was just like, "Mom, do you want to go with me?" She had just retired from work. Actually, I think she might have just still been working at that time, but she dropped everything and went with me. And we went to that first appointment. They told me it's likely cancer based on the scans, everything. And he's like, "We'll get you in for surgery on Friday." It was like a Monday. He's like, "You have a couple of days to bank some sperm in case you don't have any chance to be a father again." I have just my daughter at this time, and here's some resources for that. And we're going to take the testicle out on Friday. It's pretty simple surgery, in and out, couple hours. But once they do that, then it goes off to pathology, and it takes a week or so to come back and see what it actually is. And so that process was pretty quick. Had to get funds together to pay for it. They charged me up front for that one, and everything's just shocking at that point. But I knew at that point that I was going to be open about my journey. And so I waited about a day, and then I told everybody on Facebook. I wrote a post and I said, "I'm going in for my first surgery of my life on Friday. It's suspected to be testicular cancer. I'm in good spirits. I consider myself lucky for catching it." But it was a long post. I'm kind of known for that in terms of when I make posts, because I'm an emotional guy. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I'm open about everything. And so I got an outpouring of support from everybody. I had people calling me left and right all that week. I had people at my job just reaching out and be like, "What can we do to help you ease your mind?" My buddies took me golfing. I just did as much as I could to keep my mind off of it, but also keep my mind off of it so that I could help others, because I knew at some point I was going to be okay, and I was going to transition to, let's make sure that everybody else is okay. And so that was that was great for me in a way because I was able to get that support system that others don't. I had hundreds of people just reaching out, checking on my wife, Nicole, checking what was going on. She did updates while I was in surgery and in recovery. And it was, you get there, they do all the prep work, they get you your shot in the back, and you don't feel anything. You wake up a couple hours later and it's done. And that first surgery was really smooth and easy. And we even stopped for food on the way home. And I was just texting my buddy Derek, and I was like, well, officially I have one ball now. And he's like, no, he's like, that was today. I didn't understand that it could go that fast. And I was like, yeah, no, it's all done. We're just waiting for the results now. And that took a week or so. And right then, what was happening was in Oregon, we had really bad fires. And so the air was really bad. I couldn't go outside to do my walks and stuff to try to start to heal myself because the air was horrible outside. But we got the results from that, and the urologist called me and was like, it is cancer. And I was like, what do we do next?
I confirm that it's the C word. That's your final.
Yeah.
You had maybe, possibly, da da da.
Mm.
You're not sure, but in your head you're knowing. And then, sorry, I misunderstood. I thought the doctor had said. Anyway, so now you're finally getting confirmation of this.
And so we go through, we get the test done. I do some more blood work tests, and then I do a CT scan as soon as I'm able to get myself over there. CT scan's clean, all the tests, all the blood work, nothing abnormal, nothing pointed towards the cancer. So they're like, well, there's probably no spread. We'll see you in a week to follow up. And I was like, I'm in the clear. I'm done. So that's early September that all this stuff was going on. CT was mid-September. October 1st ran around, and I was like, okay, it's a routine checkup. I didn't even take anybody with me. Took myself to the appointment, and he's like, well, the type of cancer you have is embryonic carcinoma, which is a very fast-spreading version of testicular cancer that needs treatment. I was like, well, my blood works fine, my CT works fine, looks great. And he's like, well, we could do nothing, and it could get worse. Had pure invasion, which means that the cancer had spread into the tubes that go into my body. There was evidence that it had spread that way. And so he referred me on to OHSU and then a couple of cancer to see if I wanted to do chemo or part an RPLND, which is a surgery that takes out all your lymph nodes from your stomach. And so I spent all of October going to different specialists, getting their opinions, and I was the most defeated I felt in the entire journey because I thought I was done. You thought that I just had to get the testicle out, that I had caught it early enough that I was lucky, and I was among those that didn't have to do any other treatment. Jacob, actually, my student in my robotics days, he had that as his. I'm calling him every week and chatting with him. He was a great help during my journey, and bouncing nights off of him to ask questions. And so everybody's journey is a little bit different. Alan, on the other hand, but he had and he had quite a few scans afterwards and such. And so everybody's can be a little bit different. So ultimately, after meeting with all the specialists and stuff, I had kind of tie between doing chemo and doing RPL&D surgery. I found out like you did the surgery first, you could avoid the chemo. It makes it a little easier to do the surgery first because if you do it after the chemo, it makes it a very difficult surgery. Not an easy surgery no matter what. Took once I decided that, I had to do another round of sperm banking because that can affect the nerves that have to do with what actually brings the sperm out in ejaculation, and it can shoot them back into your body. And so there's a tougher chance that you can't have kids. Chemo can cause infertility too. So there's all kinds of there. early November of 2020, I got my RPO&D surgery. It took 9 hours of intense surgery that was robotic assist, OHSU.
Okay.
And took lymph nodes from my stomach, the largest of which was 2.9 centimeters. Cut off for doing chemo was 3, so I was 0.1 centimeter away from having to do the chemo. I would have had to do 3 rounds of chemo.
Oh my God.
And so I was very lucky to avoid that. Spent a week in the hospital, lost 27 pounds, had to not eat any good food for 6 weeks, left my daughter until Christmas morning. Was that the recovery from that surgery was so much worse than just losing the testicle and having that removed, because they just go and grab that. But I have a scar that's going to be with me forever. That's probably over a foot long around my belly button, all the way up my chest. Some of the other guys that are in my cancer foundation that I work with, got varying sizes of that surgery scar as well, but it'd be there forever. They had stapled it up and everything. And the good news was everything was in the clear too. None of the lymph nodes that were removed tested for cancer. The sizing was just under the limits that they wanted it to be. My blood work, perfect again, and I was in the clear. I slated for surveillance every 3 months. Started along that path. For
How long
my
in the hospital?
week, yeah. So a long time, really
How
boring.
long? You were in the hospital for how long after the surgery?
A
Week. Okay. And then
yeah,
you went home and recovered for another 5
6,
weeks.
yeah.
And then this was around December when you could hold your daughter again.
Yeah. Morning was the first time I got a hold her. The beginning of November at that time. I was just thankful everything was just starting to be able to eat again. Never have recovered my appetite. This day I still can't eat much, but I don't care.
I just had that problem. On a journey. And so during those 6 weeks, 5 weeks at home, did your mom and wife take care of you? Is that
Yeah, so my dad, the day my daughter was born, my dad was her twice a week. He ended up doing that like times a week during my recovery. Like he'd come over while I would work. Because I started working about 2 weeks after into my recovery because I work remote, and I was like, I'm getting back to work, getting back to my normal. One thing that you kind of do in this journey is like have to find your normal, even if it's a new normal. You have to get back to that, and so I just went to that. My mom would take off time, come just hang out, the kids. My wife took that whole week off of my surgery. Then Christmas she was off again. So parents were amazing. The best people that I know. Were never.
Shannon says the same thing about you. So you guys are a good group. And
Yeah.
so you go back to work, and then do they call you to say, at this point, do you know everything's done? You're okay, you're moving on, or do you have to wait for more results?
We call it scanxiety. Every 3 months you get a new test. So leading up to those, you get scared and you wonder, like, is it going to show something? Am I going to have to go down another route? Am I going to have to do chemo? Am I going to have another surgery? So that doesn't get any easier during the time that you're going from your initial diagnosis to your 5-year remission. Still, time you get any scan now, like, what this number, and should it be, is this off at all? So you have some of that stuff to ease, but you find a way. You find yourself refreshing my chart or a patient porters for the different hospitals and stuff. The big problem was, like, I was about to get to my 3 months in February, and was on some call at work, and I was like, man, I can't eat anything. I'm nauseous. I don't get what's going on. I need to go in. I need to get somebody to just look at this. And so I went to urgent care. They said, with your history of testicular cancer, we can't see you here. You need to go to the ER way. So I called my friend Alan and told him, hey, I'm going to the hospital here. and I drop off daughter. Can you watch her? I don't know what's going on. I'm feeling very sick and I can't figure it out. I need to go get scanned. Of course, they dropped everything and did that. Um, I went in, put me under a bunch of tests, did CT scans, and then they're like, "It's your appendix."
Oh
And,
gosh,
and so,
that's painful.
yeah, I got emergency surgery for my appendix that night. Stay in the hospital a couple more days because of the complications from all the scar tissue from my previous surgery not even being healed yet. It wasn't cancer again. I didn't have to go back and get another CT for a while because I had gotten that one done. But yeah, that was the last surgery that I've had to do. It was 2021. A couple months removed from the testicular cancer journey, and then after the first year, you get moved out to 6 months of scans, blood work. You continue on your journey, and then now I'm 5 years out. I had some other health problems that arose and pains and things that you brain immediately goes to cancer after a while. Tested out okay for that right now. Just trying to get answers on what everything's coming from. Didn't help that both doctor and my urologist both retired, and then the urologist that did my major surgery moved on from OHSU. So I don't have any of my original team anymore. I have the ability to fight for myself now. And so that's what I do during my current health battle is I gotta advocate for myself and push for testing and a lot of my friends, my family have that support system and others don't, and that's sad. And I want to be that for other people. So
Yeah. You since started a Coffees for Cancer, and tell us a little bit about that because I'll post that with your bio and stuff like that when I post on Instagram and Facebook and everything else, but YouTube and what have you. And I briefly looked at it, and it's a great little foundation you have. But how is that going? Tell us about it.
Yeah, it's small, but during my journey, I had that support system because I was open. Loved having that. Aunt and uncle brought over pizza one day. Alan would bring me or pizza or Subway or employer paid for a bunch of meals for me and my family to get through when I was in recovery. Paid for all of our DoorDash. It was in the middle of the pandemic 2020, and so nothing was really open, but
Right.
we could do DoorDash and stuff, and so they paid for all that. They allowed us to order whatever we needed to for the entire family and do that. And so that's where the Coffees for Cancer kind of from was like I had this support system, and somebody bought my wife a coffee during the time, and I was like, that's what I could do. You can help out people by buying them a coffee while they're going through a cancer journey. I don't care what kind of cancer people have. It's a nice pick me up for the cancer patient or their support system to get a gift card, be like, hey, I've got you today. And so Coffees for Cancer came out of that. And small, it's growing a little bit. I wish I had all the time in the world so I could just do this. Um, in the funds, but take all the donations that come in and I put them right back out. I don't pay myself anything. I don't pay any of the fees that come along with a nonprofit. Of the donations, I donate all that on my own. So every dollar in goes right back out to a cancer patient, and we also have the organ bottle drop where you can turn in your cans and donate to Coffees for Cancer that way. The website coffeesforcancer.com has direct donation links as well. But one of the avenues that I use to give back, you can see from my shirt, this is the Testicular Cancer Foundation. This
We
is
can't. You gotta show. You gotta stand up.
yeah, it's TCF. It's just a simple shirt that they gave me at their summit last year. I went to Las Vegas for the summit for the first time last year. I'm again in April this year, and
Okay.
it's a bunch of survivors get together, and we support each other. We have weekly Zoom calls throughout the year. Every night we on 20, 40 people on there going treatment maybe years out, kinds of people that are in the group, and great they scholarships to these people so that they can come out to the summit, and it's just a weekend of fun, education, survivorship. There's a very cool where we all the wives and all the caregivers to a different and all the guys get together and they share their journeys, and it's emotional, and it's, you know, talk through and support each other, and it was so moving last year that I was like, I keep involved in, and I hadn't been very involved with them before then, and now I'm on those calls every week, and fundraisers for them, and what I can do to help out their organization. So that's calling now. The organization called Kicking Cancer. I was on their podcast back in October. Um, they're a local foundation that helps local fighters. So I for them, I did a golf tournament for them too, and hope to continue that relationship as well as some of the other that I care of. So my life's transitioned from myself for others. So.
That is awesome, Nate. Oh my gosh, you're so awesome. You're so kind. And so, personal question, have you used the sperm bank? Have you needed to use?
So it's kind of a fun that's a tougher story because we this I right away, it wasn't very much because it was such a short timeline, and don't know that it was super healthy. And I did a bunch of sperm tests over time. I ended up having to do 5 or 6 of them. Why we tried to get pregnant years ago, 2022. It felt like every other week I was doing another test. My did spare some of the nerves in my abdomen that allow it, but we actually we suffered a miscarriage, and was just very disheartening time, especially for my wife, because she was like, is the problem with me, or even possible with to have kids anymore? And tested good one time out of the many times, and like, well, maybe this is possible. And then, like, within a month, she was pregnant with our son. He was born in March of 2023, healthy. Know if we'll be able to have another one. We had another miscarriage this last year.
Hey, you have
But
two things.
but we have 2 great kids, almost, and just turned 7, and life, the typical dad. I'm involved in everything. Them to school. I almost every diaper. All the kinds of activities with them. At home and work, but I also have them home with me. She's at school. She's in first grade right now, but the time I have both kids, and absolutely love being a dad, and that's beyond people, that big part of my life. That I to golf every once in a while, but
Golfing and Beavers games, I've noticed.
Yeah, huge beaver. My I took off, so
Represent the Beavers.
Yes.
I'm a huge Beaver fan as well. I wish they'd do a little bit better in football, but that's another episode.
Someday, hopefully, for sure.
I have a question for you. If there are listeners out there listening to you that have just been told they have testicle cancer, what do you have for them? I know you're big on advocating, but what would you tell them today?
Well, yeah, we're in the boat of having testicular cancer. To the Testicular Cancer Foundation, I wish I would have found them 5 years ago. My would have been a little bit different. There's more than just the Testicular Cancer Foundation. There's also Testicular Cancer Awareness Foundation, Testicular Cancer Society. Those are great organizations as well. I'm trying to with them as well, here and there. I have a Fitbit on for one of the societies that they're tracking my recovery. And we're donating all that data to the University of Central Florida that's doing studies. But there's people that can help you. That's a big thing that we do every Thursday is we find new people, and we say, we're that you found us. We're sorry that you're here. Get a little bit better than I do, but we want to grow because we don't want more people to have to deal with that. But we want to grow because we want to support more people, and it's the most common cancer between 18 and 39, and it's cause can research that needs to be done, that I'm doing is more about the recovery side of things. But get a support group. If it's not testicular cancer, if it's breast cancer, if it's cancer, there's all kinds. There's all kinds of cancers that are out there, and it's scary time. You can get past it with the support, and there's going to be a journey that's exactly the same. People are not going to have their appendix burst in a few weeks. So we're going to just have the one surgery. Some people are going to catch it so late that it's too late. Unfortunately, we had 2 people pass last from cancer because they get in stage 4. So catch it early, an exam often, and the care that you deserve, and everything early enough, and you get through it, and you have the life that I live.
Thank you, Nate. And we will be putting all those links to your story as well as much as I can promote it. Also, copiesforcancer.org or .com. Copiesforcancer.com.
I think I have both, but com is the easier one.
Okay. Well, thank you for sharing your story, and it's great meeting you. And I have to read a little disclaimer real quick, and then I'm gonna hit the record button off, and then we'll talk for a bit. Unless you have anything else you would like to share.
No, this was great. Thank you for having me on, and
I think you're an awesome human being. And scars are sexy, just so you know. It's another foundation we need to open up.
There you go.
The information shared on this podcast is for educational and inspirational purposes only. It is not medical, psychological, or professional advice. Always consult with a qualified professional before making changes to your health, mindset, or lifestyle. You are responsible for your own decisions, actions, and results. Take what resonates, leave what doesn't, and always do what's best for you. I'm going to turn it off now.